Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Finally, the talk is over, the arguments will be ending, and the much talked about IMF program has been approved by the board of the International Monetary Fund. But how do we sustain the recovery going forward and ensure that the much talked about fiscal prudence is achieved, and also restoring confidence in the economy as well with respect to what has happened? Dr. Amin Adam is Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, and he joined us on PM Express to get some understanding about this whole program and what we should be expecting or what will be next for the country. Doc, I appreciate your time and thank you so much.
And thank you also.
How are you doing? I mean, interesting, some would say.
I'm doing well. I mean, I've settled in very well in the ministry, and you know, the minister is a great personality. He has facilitated my settling in much quick than I thought. And the team here at the Ministry of Finance is a great team. I've worked with some of them in the past, and so it's like continuity. Don't forget that I've been part of the government since 2017 at the Ministry of Energy, and so I'm not new. I'm not new to the economy. I'm not new to issues of the economy. And energy, as you know, is a key component of our economy. You know, and so settling in has been quite easy for me.
Interesting. I mean, I noticed something I've pushed you in the past and you tried to shy away from. What did you make of your appointment? For some, it came as a big surprise. And for some who knew your workings, it was not surprising at all.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm not new to the economy. I'm coming from the Ministry of Energy, and energy is a key component of the economy. Even at the Ministry of Finance, energy happens to be our Achilles heels, you know, because the debts associated with energy, you know, payment to IPPs, and also ensuring that you have restructuring of the SOEs in the energy sector, which also is part of the IMF requirements. The IMF program has some conditions that we have to meet, if you like, quantitative and indicative targets that we have to meet, and restructuring of the energy sector agencies is key. To the extent that we want them to be more efficient, we want them to reduce the debts and arrears that they accumulate. We want them to be financially viable, you know. And so it has been easy for me settling in and joining the great team led by the Honorable Minister himself to manage the economy of our country.
Interesting. People will be looking up to see what Doc has up his sleeve in terms of contributing to the economy. But some interesting thing has happened, and one will talk about the fact that the board going ahead to approve Ghana's program. And for you at the ministry and for you at your end, what do you make of this development?
Well, this is an important milestone, significant in many ways. First, it shows that when you are challenged, you know, in your economy, with leadership, with great leadership and efficiency, you are able to mobilize the support that you need to address the challenges, and also to have a quick turnaround in terms of bringing the economy to recovery. And so under the leadership of our president, the direction and wisdom of our president, and through the hard work by the minister, we have done this you know, in a record time. We were challenged by COVID, we were challenged by Russia-Ukraine war, even the financing of the banking sector. Challenges, they brought us almost on our knees, you know, so we had crisis. And you see great leadership when you have crisis. We have been able to turn this around within a short period of time. First, applying to the IMF for a program leading to the signing of the staff level agreement, and this was done in 6 months, which is a record time globally. And then beyond that, we also applied to the Paris Club and the official creditor committee to treat our debts, and to that extent, we were very happy that on the 12th of May, the official bilateral creditor committee was formed, chaired by France and China, And that same day, they granted Ghana financing assurances, and this was also done in record time of about 5 months. And it took Zambia to achieve financing assurance in 17 months. It took Sri Lanka to achieve financing assurances in 7 months. We did it in 5 months. And then also we launched the debt operation, the domestic debt operation, which was also achieved in 3 months. And so it takes great leadership. It takes versatile leadership. It takes bold leadership, and that has been demonstrated by both the president and the minister for finance in order to get the necessary support that our economy needs, and first by the IMF, and then secondly by other development partners that will come along with the IMF to support our economy to recover.
Interesting, in your earlier submission, you spoke about the COVID in Russia and Ukraine, and these are things that some people would disagree vehemently with government and the Ministry of Finance, saying that every economy around the world was hit by COVID and Russia and Ukraine war, but they managed to come out of it. And some would say that apart from these external factors, there are things that happen that got us into this situation, and that is because of government.
I mean, if you look at the economy, look at the data before COVID struck, the data was good. Inflation was still in a single digit. Okay, the deficit had been managed quite well, and the economy was robust. Growth was good. We recorded a growth rate of close to 7%. And so you cannot say that we were not affected by these external shocks. Today, we are turning things around because inflation has come down from 54% to 45%, and today it's around 41%. So you can see the decline, for conservative decline in inflation. The last quarter growth was impressive. We grew beyond what was projected, and we are hoping to even do better. The exchange rate has been relatively stable, and we are hoping that with the IMF program, we will be able to strengthen the local currency even further, bringing about more stability. And so prices of goods are going to go down. Remember, when the Russia-Ukraine war was started, prices had gone up to the extent that even the advanced countries, could not cope. They didn't even have goods in their shops. I mean, both in the United States of America, in Germany, and also in the UK. We had that. Petroleum prices had gone up to the extent that some countries declared stock out, and you saw long queues even in the UK. We didn't experience that. Okay, and then also food prices were escalating. We were able to contain it, and therefore these external shocks really affected every economy, including ours. But I must also say that some are still feeling the effect, even as we have seen recovery, and a return to economic growth. And so you cannot rule that out. And even some of the advanced countries, as you know, are still reeling under the pressures of the COVID and also the Russia-Ukraine war. But we are lucky. We have great leadership in this country, and that is why we are able to turn things around. And hopefully, by the time we end the IMF program, Ghana will be very stable, our economy will be strong, and then we can create more jobs for our people, and then we can see a future that is brighter than before.
Interesting. I mean, we'll get back to get into the end of the program, the fiscal prudence, confidence restoration, and also fast-tracking the recovery of this economy. But again, still backtracking to the external issues. Some are saying that maybe it was about the overborrowing. I mean, and that is what has got us into this situation where we all thought that we wouldn't go for a fund program.
Well, before the COVID, I mean, you cannot say that we overborrowed. We're borrowing, of course. You have to borrow to finance your development needs. And even the great countries of the world, they continue to borrow to finance their development needs. And so it will not be a crime if you borrow. But our borrowing went outside sustainable levels because of the challenges we faced. You had to spend so much to clean the financial sector challenges. You had to also spend more than you anticipated because of COVID. As a result of COVID, revenue was affected. We were not receiving the revenue that we anticipated. The capital reversals also affected us. because when Russia-Ukraine war started and the prices went higher, interest rates also had to be looked at. Monetary tightening was used by even the advanced countries, and because of that, their financing facilities became more attractive. So their citizens who invest in our country had to reverse their investment into their own countries, and that affected the flow to our economy. And so, yes, we were affected by all this, and that led to the levels of borrowing that we had to do. But the good news is that we have all come to the realization that we cannot continue on that path, and therefore we need to be able to bring our debt levels to sustainable levels, and that is one of the reasons why we had to go to the IMF.
Talking about going to the IMF, and again, some more clarity again in terms of the disbursement following this approval, what has been the communication from the fund in terms of how the disbursement to be done?
Well, so once our program has been approved, and we thank God for that, disbursements are going to start immediately. The first tranche of disbursement of 600 million US dollars will start immediately, and so we are expecting that within a week or two that will drop in our accounts. There will be the second tranche in disbursement after a successful review by November, December. And so this year alone, we are expecting some 1.2 billion United States dollars. You can imagine what this will do to our balance of payment position, what it will do to our budget, because there is budget support in that as well. The remaining amount will be disbursed in equal tranches of $360 million every 6 months after a successful review. Okay, and so the money will flow, and we are very confident that they will serve the purpose in bringing about macro stability. But at the same time, we are going to continue with the debt restructuring, because we have to bring our debt levels to sustainable levels, 55% of GDP by 2028. The domestic debt operation has been successful, about 85% participation, and then also once the official creditor committee granted us the financing assurances, which paved the way for the approval of our program by the IMF, negotiation of those debts will start in earnest, and we are hopeful that we will not only achieve macro stability, but will also achieve debt sustainability, and then bring the economy to the path of recovery and growth.
So we're looking at about $3 billion, right?
Yeah, the IMF program is a $3 billion US dollar to be disbursed over 3 years. But there is also the catalytic effect that we always talk about. The other development partners and other investors are going to follow through because of the approval.
And that's what I was going to come to that very soon as well. I know that we got the communication that the World Bank is going to come on board, and the other development partners are also going to come on board. What role are these partners going to play in this whole program in terms of, because I know that what the IMF is going to give is directly going to go for our balance of payment support. The World Bank is going to come on board to support our budget and all the rest, and we have Germany, Sweden, others also coming on board. Again, help us. Maybe it's still early days yet, and not the fine details, but help us the role of these development partners are going to play in this whole program.
Well, once we applied for an IMF-supported program, we also started engaging with the World Bank, for budget support, and I'm happy to report that we are far advanced. We are almost concluding the negotiation with the World Bank for a 900 million US dollar budget support, which will be disbursed in equal installment of $300 million a year. And so for the next 3 years, whilst the IMF is disbursing the $3 billion, the World Bank will also be disbursing 900 million US dollars, $300 million each year. The World Bank has also committed to support the Financial Stability Fund with 250 million US dollars. And then also we are talking to the Africa Development Bank to also support the fund up to about 100 million US dollars. We are hoping that other development partners will come forth to support our economy, not just through budget support, but also the Financial Stability Fund, so that we can make the domestic banking sector stronger.
Interesting. Some will say that with respect to the development partners coming on board and all the rest, these support are not just coming as a blank check. And you know that there will be a review in June and another review in November as well. Whilst government celebrates, in quotes, about this support, it is not going to come easy for Ghana. They are coming with strict conditions.
Well, the World Bank, yes, we call what we call DPOs, I think it's Development Policy Operation. They will certainly come with some conditions, but these are conditions that are not beyond our control. I mean, the same conditions we have been trying, even as a country, on our own to undertake. Restructuring of our SOEs to become more efficient, and also to reduce the debt levels in the SOEs, making sure that the energy sector, for example, is priced to ensure that we have cost recovery, to ensure that monetary financing by the Bank of Ghana is also stopped. These are same conditions that we as a country have been trying to do. Gift mix, for example, bringing the statutory funds through gift mix. And so they are not too onerous conditions, I will say. And so we are capable of undertaking and pursuing these reforms that would justify the support we are going to receive from the development partners.
This is PM Express Business Edition, and we're engaging the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, as we look at the IMF program approval in terms of fiscal discipline, restoring confidence in the economy, and how can they fast-track the recovery of the economy. We take a break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as you talk about the IMF program approval for Ghana and what is next for government when it comes to covering the economy, when it comes to stability and confidence restoration. He is the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, and thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it so much. So when I read through the Paris Club or the G20 framework document, it appears that there is still some negotiations that are supposed to do with these external creditors in reaching a memorandum of understanding. How is that going?
Well, I mean, the restructuring window, covers about $20 billion. And the official bilateral creditors and then ECA supported loans is about $5.4 billion. And so that is the assurance we have just gotten from the official creditor committee that they are ready to negotiate with us to restructure the debt. 5.4 billion is quite significant, but you still have some $14 billion, 13 billion of which is in the euro bonds, and so we have the commercial creditors that we have to negotiate with. But with this approval of the fund, we are very confident that our creditors will cooperate with us because confidence is going to be boosted, and then also our relationship with the IMF will guide our relationship with not just the official creditors, but also the commercial creditors. And so we hope to start negotiation very soon. You will notice that the G20 Common Framework has a principle we call comparability principle. And so in line with the financing assurance that we got from the official bilateral creditors, we are hoping that the commercial creditors will follow suit, to restructure. When you say how soon, it will be soon, but you also know that the sustainable debt levels we want to achieve, 55%, according to the IMF program, is in 2028. And so you are not going to complete your negotiation overnight. You know, it may take some time, but we are very hopeful that the creditors will cooperate with us so that we can do this much quicker to ensure that we start reducing the debt overhang until we get to the sustainable levels.
Some will say for the bilateral creditors it might not be a big deal, but you're looking at the commercial creditors, and that might be a huge challenge for government. How are you going to ensure that comparability, the fairness and all the rest, and to ensure that you'll be able to weigh something? Because some will cast our mind back to a Zambia situation where when they were struggling to get a deal with their creditors, further disbursement delayed a little bit.
Well, I think that the official and also the commercial creditors have shown good faith with Ghana. They came to support us when we needed their support. And so I am not sure they are going to run away from us when we are facing difficulty. We have been very transparent with them. And I can tell you that the relationship is strong, is still strong. They all want to support our effort to bring the economy to recovery. The fact that a lot of our debts are also in commercial debts shows that the creditors will want our economy to be good, our economy to be strong, our economy to be stable in order for them to continue to invest. And so helping us to bring the economy back to recovery, back to accelerated growth will provide also a great opportunity for them to continue to invest in our economy. I mean, if you look around West Africa in particular, Ghana is a star. And that is why all these investors were happy to invest in Ghana. I don't think their appetite for Ghana is completely lost. They still want to invest in emerging markets, and Ghana will continue to be an attractive market for them.
China coming on board, what do you make of it? I mean, we were so excited that finally China was coming on board in terms of the G20 framework thing. What did Ghana make of this?
Well, I mean, China and Ghana, I mean, we've enjoyed very strong bilateral relations for a long time. I mean, I can tell you that we share a lot in common, and we always support each other. And I wasn't surprised China came on board. I had a meeting with the Chinese ambassador, and he expressed confidence in Ghana and desire by the Chinese government to continue to stand by Ghana. So I'm not surprised that when my minister visited China, the reception was so excellent. He met the Chinese finance minister, the Exim Bank of China, and all the key people in China. And that was when we got the assurance that China was going to continue to cooperate with Ghana. And so I'm not surprised that cooperation has been followed through to the co-chairing of the official creditor committee, and then also the granting of the financing assurance.
We are yet to start negotiations with China.
Trade, in terms of trade and investment, China is our number one.
Interesting. I mean,
so
some Ghanaians are worried. I mean, yes, negotiations are yet to start, but some are saying that what is government going to give more to get China fully on board in terms of our debt restructuring? And there are a lot of businesses out there, a lot of Ghanaians who are worried.
I mean, as I indicated, China is number one when it comes to trade relations, trade and investment. And so once they found Ghana as a market, it is important that the market is robust, the market is attractive for them to continue to invest. And so supporting us and cooperating with us to bring the market to a sound position, I think it's in our mutual interest, and this is why I don't need to be specific about what we will give to China, but for purposes of trade and investment, we need each other, you know, and so I will not be surprised.
I asked the question in relation of the debt restructure because you are engaging the bilateral creditors. Some will come with conditions about investing in area A, area B, and doing all those things. But some are worried that when it comes to China, we may have to give a lot to get the debt restructured.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I already told you that the relationship is strong between us and China, just as we have strong relationship with many of the our European creditors, the United States of America, Japan, etc., etc. And so when it comes to bilateral cooperation, diplomatic relationship, there is more to it than what we know outside. And so I'm not in the position to tell you what it is, but there is more to it than what most of us know. And on the basis of such a friendly relationship, and coupled with the fact that Ghana is an emerging market, these investors in those countries will want to continue to do business in Ghana, you know, a country that is surrounded by unstable countries. Why not? Ghana is a very important country for them. And so we will continue to cooperate and to relate to each other in a way that allows for favorable negotiation to ensure that we mutually benefit.
Get the best deal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You talked about the restructuring of the debts, especially the external creditors still ongoing and all the rest. What about the domestic situation as well? The pension bondholders, I heard that there was some payments or something that was supposed to be made. Not help me out clarify what has happened to that situation.
I mean, let me say that the issue of the pension bondholders has been an important issue for us, you know, and His Excellency the President has always called on my minister, the Minister for Finance, to ensure that we resolve this issue. I mean, they are our fathers, our mothers. We are not happy that they come picketing at the Finance Ministry. And these are people who have served our country. They've made significant sacrifices for our country. But at the same time, we are saying that we still need their support, okay? And so with the liquidity challenges that we have, they should give us some time, some allowance to put the house in order. They have not taken that kindly, but we continue to appeal to them. At the moment, we, at the instance of the Minister for Finance, we held meetings with them, we negotiated, and we've agreed to mobilize resources to pay off the arrears, the coupon arrears, you know, which have accumulated since February, you know. And so we are committed this week to and to pay all the. Some may have even received their coupons in their accounts as I speak to you. You still have the principals that we are asking to negotiate further. And so in the weeks ahead, we'll be meeting them to discuss the way forward as far as the principals are concerned.
Has government been able to communicate its current liquidity challenge to all these interested parties? Because some will cast their mind back and look at the assurance given to these pension bondholders in terms of this domestic deduction program. And since you said they had closed the page and are still sitting on the edge that I may be expecting a surprise tomorrow when it comes to this whole domestic deduction program and the current negotiations to bring our debt levels to 55% of GDP.
So what we have renegotiated is involving, I think, about 98 billion Ghana cedis. We still have the cocoa bills that we are negotiating, and also the dollar-denominated bonds, which we are negotiating. With the agreement we have reached now with the pensioner individual bondholders, there are other individual bondholders, you know, Martin Pebbles Group and the Seniors Group. We have been talking to all of them. And for them also, we have come to a certain understanding that we will pay the coupons, and then their maturing bonds, they've agreed with us to convert them to treasury bills. Okay, that all gives us room, it gives us allowance to improve on our liquidity so that we will be able to continue to pay them. And so this is what we have achieved so far as far as the domestic debt operation is concerned. But I want to assure everybody that we are committed in spite of our liquidity challenges, and particularly with the approval of the IMF and the revenue measures that we have put in place, including those revenue bills that were passed by Parliament, and also the efficiency we are bringing to bear on revenue collection through the EVAT, etc., etc. We are very confident that liquidity will improve, and so we will be able to meet our obligations to the bondholders.
meeting obligations to the bondholders. This is PM Express Business Edition to look at Ghana's IMF program approval. What is next for Ghana when it comes to fiscal discipline, sustaining confidence in this economy, and fast-tracking the recovery as well? We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about the IMF program and what is next for the economy, what is next for government, and what is next in terms of businesses trying to restore confidence in the economy. Dr. Adam is the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. There are some who are still asking questions. Yes, we are celebrating getting a program or get excited, but there are some who are still asking that what is in this program in terms of that Ghanaians deserve the right. Now that we have right information, we need to know what is in, what are we committing to this IMF program?
Well, I mean, this government is committed to transparency, and that is the very reason why we passed the Right to Information Act, you know, which had been pending for a long time, government after government, until President Akufo-Addo decided with bold leadership to pass it through Parliament. And so we are committed to transparency. As a result of this, the government has instructed the IMF to publish all the documents. Once the approval has been given, the IMF must be publishing the documents if they haven't already published the documents. And so all the documents are going to be available for the public to continue to scrutinize and also to help with monitoring. Public scrutiny is important because we are supposed to implement a number of measures, and to the extent that the public know what those measures are, and then they are asking all the critical questions as to how we are performing, you know, is important. And so public accountability, as you know, will continue to be a feature of the Ghanaian politics. The media is strong. We have think tanks and CSOs that are interested in asking questions. The Parliament itself, we have very strong members of Parliament who are not afraid to ask the questions. And so we want to be as transparent and publicly accountable as possible. And that is the commitment His Excellency the President continues to make to the people of Ghana.
For some Ghanaians, don't you think that this might become a little bit late? Some would have wished that this was made clear to us before this landmark decision by the board.
Well, I think that the government has been transparent. When we applied for the IMF support, it was announced by government. We signed in record time the staff level agreement. It was announced to the public. The formation of the official creditor committee was also announced, you know, and so at every stage of this process, we have kept Ghanaians aware of what is going on, and we want to continue to do that. But when you are negotiating, some of the vital information may not come out because you are still negotiating until you have definite positions before you bring all of them out. And so now that we have reached those definite positions and the program has been approved, the government has not hesitated in asking the IMF to publish all those documents.
You're a member of Parliament and not any. Help me out. What role does Parliament play here in terms of disclosure and getting members to appreciate what has happened with respect to what has happened right now?
Well, I think you also know that even before the IMF signed the staff level agreement with Ghana, they engaged all stakeholders and they engaged Parliament. I'm a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament. They engaged us. They came to the Finance Committee. We discussed, we expressed our concerns, we made propositions to them, that proposition that they need to consider to ensure that we manage our finances well, but also we manage our debts well. And at every stage, I have heard eloquently Ghanaian parliamentarians on both sides, you know, asking questions and critiquing some of the reforms that we were negotiating. And so Parliament has a very critical role to play here. some of the measures were already front-loaded through the 2023 budget, and Parliament scrutinized the budget and passed the budget. You know how long it took us for Parliament to pass the revenue bills, you know, because Parliament felt that they should continue to scrutinize, you know, those bills and to demand accountability. And so these are all roles Parliament have been assertive in playing. And I believe that Parliament will continue to play that assertive role in order to ensure that we, as a government, are held accountable to the people.
I asked you another question about the conditions as well. And for those who are worried that previous programs has come with very hard conditions, how different would this program be? Or what are some of the conditions that you think the Ghanaians should know? There have been talk about, and I remember the last time I spoke to the Minister of Finance, he made an argument about realistic tariffs. I mean, that is your space when it comes to power and all the rest. And these are things that we should gradually come to appreciate and understand. The revenue situation and all the rest. Are these things that locked up in this program that we should brace ourselves for?
Well, I think that, I mean, if you look at all what you call conditions, you know, they are not new to Ghana. I mean, all the so-called conditions we have are not new. Government after government have had to commit to implementing. Just that implementation has been poor. We haven't been consistent in implementing, but they are not new. Having realistic tariff has never been new. Okay? Because if you don't have realistic electricity tariffs, then you accumulate arrears, you accumulate debts. The debts will come hitting you. So it has never been new. Government after government, especially when you have engagement with either the World Bank or the IMF, it's always a subject. Having the fiscal discipline, you know, spending within our budget has always been a condition, has always been an issue we discuss government after government, which is also here. The monetary financing by the Bank of Ghana, it has always been an issue that Bank of Ghana should not finance the government. And so, as far as I am concerned, the problem has been the consistency of implementation has been lacking, and then also we have to make sure that this time around we change the course of implementation in order to ensure that, because at the end of it all, it is for our own good as a country. It is not because we are signing an agreement with World Bank or we've gotten an IMF program. It is for our own good that we do this in order to keep our economy on track.
You talked about tariffs and you talked about power. How are things doing, since it's your playground, in terms of the financing assurance in the power sector and also dealing with financing issues, and how are things as we speak right now?
Well, I mean, the power sector, as I indicated earlier, is our Achilles heels. It's a very important sector for our economy. Without power, there's no economy. Okay, and so some have described electricity as the fuel for the engine of the economy. It's the fuel for the engine. You have the engine, but the fuel, without fuel, the engine cannot run. And so power sector is so critical that we must ensure that power is available, and not just available, but power supply is reliable so that industry can function. But the finances in the power sector continues to be a challenge for us. We have a shortfall of about $1.4 billion now in the sector, which means that a number of measures have to be taken to reduce the shortfall. And this is why the government brought in the Energy Sector Recovery Program, which has led to the implementation of a number of measures, as a result of which the shortfall, which before was about $4 billion, has reduced to the 1.4 billion US dollars that we have. We have done this whilst keeping the lights on. You know, that is very significant. Whilst keeping the lights on, we have reduced the shortfall.
Nowadays,
you know, but
some pockets of them.
Yeah, but those are isolated issues
they
that
are not
you will,
issues about financing.
No, I mean, no, until you get to that uninterruptible stage, which as a country we haven't gotten to. You will still have those isolated operational issues, but largely we have kept the lights on. We never going back to the doom so that we experienced in the past. But having said this, we need to still be very serious about organizing the finances very well to ensure that the energy sector is financially viable And that means that cost recovery tariffs is important. We must achieve cost recovery tariffs. It doesn't make sense to generate power at 10 cents and then you sell it at 8 cents. Who finances the 2 cents? You know, and so ECG also has to be looked at. I mean, fortunately, we have an MD who is a very serious MD. He was demonstrated that he's up to the task, who has embarked on operations upon operations to collect their debts. And they've collected, I understand, about 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. We want to support them to continue to put fire in their operation so that they can recover. Because at the end of it all, tariffs are adjusted and yet they are not able to collect, what means that we are being counterproductive. And so we want to be able to do this. Now, you know that there is the cash waterfall mechanism, which has also helped in ensuring that you have cash flow. There were times some IPPs were not paid over a long period of time. There were times ECD could decide which IPP to pay and which one not to pay. You know, so we brought in the cash waterfall mechanism, which has solved that problem, because they all now have some cash flow in a time the cash waterfall is to disburse. And so all those partners along the value chain, they get what is due them. The fuel suppliers are getting what is due them. The IPPs who are generating power are also getting, although they don't get the entire money due them. They continue to have what will enable them operate their plants and to stay in business. Now the minister has engaged the IPPs and put an offer to them for the restructuring of their debts in line with the general debt restructuring that we are doing. And a number of them have positively responded to our offer. Some have asked for some modification in their power purchase agreements. And so ECG is engaging them on the restructuring of the power purchase agreements. And we should ensure that at the end of this negotiation, the debt levels are reduced so that we can keep current on our invoices. I must also state that the energy sector is a component of the IMF program, but also of the World Bank DPOs. We are not required to accumulate new tariffs in the sector or in other MDA. We are not required. And so to be able to fulfill this condition, it means that we must be able to reduce our debt size in the energy sector. We also must ensure that the restructured debts are paid, but we also must keep current on future invoices that are coming. These are the measures that we have to put in place to ensure that the energy sector is not financially overburdened. It becomes financially viable so that we can continue to keep the lights on, and then also to ensure that the supply of electricity is reliable.
Let's come to a very critical point about fiscal discipline going forward. What is the commitment from government in terms of being, if I can use the expression, fiscal discipline going forward? Because some are saying that we're getting into an election year, and that's governments all over has been a very big challenge. How is government going to be fiscal prudent with those finances going forward and the commitment?
Well, fiscal discipline means you spend within your means. That's what fiscal discipline means. And so what it means is that we will not have off-budgetary spending.
And that's assurance.
Yeah, government is committed to that. And we want to make sure as much as possible that we have expenditure controls that are working. The minister has already set up a budget implementation standing committee, which I chair. And that is supposed to ensure that whatever we spend on is approved. And whatever we spend on goes through a very rigorous process of approval, you know, so that we can keep our budget, we can keep our spending within our budget. If we will have any spending beyond the budget, that will increase our deficit levels, and we may not be able to meet the IMF requirements of deficit. We're supposed to record about 1.5% of primary balance, and to be able to do that will require very significant fiscal discipline. We're also supposed to have a fiscal adjustment, front-loaded fiscal adjustment of about 5.1 percentage points. You know, that is huge. And it demands discipline, it demands hard work. And so we are sensitizing every sector of government, including SOEs. And this is the reason why they all now are brought under the gift mix, including the statutory funds. They are all brought through the gift mix in order to give us visibility and also to ensure that we control the spending by every agent of government.
And that's what I was coming, how together with your minister, how are you whipping all the other ministries and agencies to appreciate where we are right now as a country?
Well, it is not about whipping them. It is a government program, and cabinet has approved of it, and therefore every minister, every CEO, every MDA, part of the government, work together as a team. And so what we will do is continue sensitization to ensure that we do not deviate at any point in time. And so I'm very confident that we will bring the discipline that we need to be able to contain fiscal slippages and then also off-budgetary spending.
How is revenue doing, since revenue will be very critical in this whole program going forward?
Well, the data I've seen shows that we are doing well on revenue. This year around, I mean, around this time normally, April, you know, revenue is not doing well because that's the beginning of the year. But I've seen data suggesting that we have recorded positive deviation, you know, which is unlike several other years ago. And this positive deviation shows that revenue is doing well. Don't also forget that the projections we had made included the revenue we're going to get from the bills that were delayed in Parliament. And so if those bills were passed, I'm very sure that even with the positive deviation, would have been showing better records in terms of revenue. But even without those bills, I've seen positive deviation on the revenue side. Going into the remaining half of the year, there is going to be a robust approach to revenue collection. And I indicated that GRA is very serious about the EVAT, implementation of the EVAT, and that alone should help us collect more money. We are also looking at reforming the e-levy further, and when the Honorable Minister has taken a decision, we will inform the people of Ghana how we can ensure that e-levy collections also increase. And so, yes, revenue is doing well. Yeah.
Let's go in then for you. What are your expectations in terms of this program, the expected impact on the economy? Confidence restoration is very critical.
Yes.
The Ghana city as well. What are your expectations, and what other things, political steps, economic steps, is government willing to do to help fast track this confidence restoration in this economy?
Well, the fact that we have done this IMF thing in a record time, you know, alone shows that investors are, you know, increasing their confidence in Ghana. And you know that the economy has already started showing signs of recovery, you know, because of the positive decisions and steps we have taken, including the fast tracking of the IMF negotiation. The economy has already seen some recovery. The city has been relatively stable. Inflation has gone down from some 54% to around 41%, and it's going to further go down in our view. The growth in last quarter was better than projected, and so the signs of recovery are already showing. And so with the implementation of the IMF program, we may have a dip, a little dip, before we recover sustainably. And so I'm very confident, and government is very confident that the IMF program will bring some good to our country. We want to be able to restore macroeconomic stability. We want to be able to bring down inflation further. We want to be able to reduce the deficit to about a primary balance of about 1.5%. We want to be able to inject liquidity into the economy. We want to be able to grow the economy. And that is why, apart from the IMF money, we are going to leverage funds from other sources to support economic growth. We have to finance growth. It is not just about macro stability and debt sustainability, but we have to find the money to finance growth. And this is why the government has also brought in a growth agenda, a program to support the growth of the economy, the post-COVID-19 program for economic growth. That is the program underpinning the IMF program. And this is our growth agenda, which we hope to implement vigorously in order to ensure that the economy creates jobs, we grow at accelerated level, and then we are also able to sustain development.
As you wrap up on this interview, Honorable Minister, I mean, when the Zambia got this program approved, their currency had a very tremendous performance as well. What are, together working with the Bank of Ghana, what are the expectations for the local currency as well going forward because of this program?
Well, the measures the Bank of Ghana has already taken has helped to strengthen our cedi. You know, they have been trying to use monetary tightening to ensure that the cedi is strengthened, and then also the gold for oil has also helped in strengthening the cedi. And I'm very sure that going forward, when the balance of payment position is improved, that will also help in the strengthening the cedi. And so Bank of Ghana is doing its work, and we will ensure that the monetary policies that they are making complement the fiscal policies we are making to deliver the stability that we need in the economy.
I appreciate your time, Honorable Minister, for your time, and I appreciate so much. And we hope that going forward, let's see what this program will bring. But for a lot of businesses out there, the bit about the fiscal discipline. I mean, just a quick one. Are you also expecting the rating agencies as well to respond, because there was an element of uncertainty that fed into their action?
I mean, above all this, what we expect is the restoration of confidence, investor confidence in our economy. And once you have investor confidence in the economy, you are achieving stability, the market will respond. And so that should be able to trigger some upgrades for our economy, you know, which will further consolidate the gains that we are making as a country. And so I would not be surprised if over the next few months into a year, the upgrades, the grading institutions are constantly looking at Ghana favorably, you know, because of the discipline that the economy has recovered, because of the confidence investors has restored in our economy, because of the aggressive revenue collection that we are doing, and also because of the fiscal discipline containing our expenditure. I should not be surprised if they look to Ghana favorably in the next few months.
Doc, I appreciate your time so much, and thank you so much for your time. And let's look forward to see what this program will bring and how our government will be committed to this program in terms of being disciplined.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much
to inform the people of Ghana about the good things we are doing.
Well, interesting whether it is good. It's another debate altogether, whether they are good or they are bad.
Whether they are good.
Well, the public will be the judge. This has been PM Express Business Edition to look at the IMF program, what is next for the economy in terms of fiscal discipline, confidence restoration, and ensuring that we move forward and ensure that things are done in the right way. My name is George Wiafe. I know the debate to go on in your homes and your offices about what will be the real benefits of this program to the economy and the challenges that lies ahead. Have a great day.